How fun was that? I'm glad I have my dancing shoes on. Thank you so much for that beautiful piece. Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday. Would you like to begin with a smile? About a 9-year-old that I heard about. This young 9-year-old went into the kitchen one day. She said to her mommy, "Mommy, where do people come from?" And the mom thought, "Oh no, not the birds and the bees talk, right?" The mom said, "Well," she took a deep breath and rallied her troops and she said, "Well, dear daughter, God made us perfect and beautiful and wise and smart." The daughter thought, simple, okay. Daughter goes out to the yard where Daddy was working. "Daddy, where do people come from?" The father thought, "Oh no. Well, millions of years ago, from the sea began life, and then we slowly evolved. Slowly over time, consciousness evolved. Then we became monkeys. Then we became apes. Then we slowly over time became cave dwellers and people." The girl scratched her head. That kind of sounded funny to her. She went back into the kitchen. She said, Mommy, this doesn't make sense. Daddy says we came from monkeys and apes, and you say God made us and we're beautiful and wonderful and smart." And the mom thought, "Oh no, dear daughter, I was telling you where my side of the family came from." Your father was telling where his side of the family came from. I'll try not to laugh too hard. Life is good, and I think it keeps getting better. Oftentimes I've noticed that a lot of folks who are drawn to metaphysics and spiritualism are a lot of folks that are very, very sensitive to energy. Can you understand that? Especially to spirit energy, which means artists, musicians, folks that are very sensitive to energy. Is there anyone like that here? You want to raise your hand? And so, that's only 99%. And so quite often there's a lot of things about understanding energy that we can misunderstand. But I've also noticed a consistency in our work going back to 1990 when I came into a lot of this line of philosophy, is understanding the difference of what kind of energies should we entertain, and to welcome into our thoughts and our body, and what other kinds should we maybe just kind of avoid, and feeling the difference. And a lot of times our cultures haven't taught us the difference. And so I wanted to focus for a few minutes today on kind of understanding the difference between what might feel like psychic or frenetic energy out in the world versus what is maybe deeper and more spiritual. Because what a difference it is, right? The difference between sweet and salt, quite different. And when we feel energy, we just kind of know. Maybe not up here yet, because we're so intellectual. We want to over-process things, correct? But on the inside, we quite often will just take a few minutes, a few seconds, just subtly, gently become aware of, how does this feel to me? We'll know what the energy is about. The reason is, as we understand now, thanks to quantum physics even more so, we're understanding everything is energy. Paper, wood, glass, everything in some way is a combination of energy. And we, as energy beings, we also feel energy. So it only stands to reason that we're kind of like these walking antennas that sense and feel. To what degree do we do it consciously is another issue, but quite often we feel things that we don't quite understand. But we have this emotional system that is here to help guide us. And so quite often folks come to the church for counseling or to other metaphysical centers, and one of the number one complaints is quite often people feeling as though that they are too sensitive and they don't know how to manage it. How many of you, for example, got classes in energy management when you were 7 years old? Or 10? Or 12? I've been fortunate enough to work with some folks that, they had doctorates from Yale or from Stanford. And I'd say, did you study how to manage energy? And they would just go blank, They might be brilliant in a chosen profession or field, yes. But who taught us growing up as feeling beings, 7, 10, 18, who taught us to feel and to subtly be aware of how is it you feel? What is it you're feeling? And then to honor that. To honor it. To say, you know what, how you feel matters. And so whether you're a lady or a gentleman, honor the way that you feel, because that inner feeling level is trying to teach us something. Quite often I've dealt with folks that lived in cities or worked in cubicles with a whole bunch of other employees running around, running crazy, and some people, in spite of being very, very successful, being very educated, never feel calm, never feel a sense of peacefulness. And so then when they come for counseling, they say, I almost feel like I don't want to go to work because of the frenetic energy. That's a really good indicator. If it feels kind of frenetic, kind of buzzy, kind of mental, that's a really good indicator. That's a lot of mental or psychic energy. And so that first feeling is part of our divine indicator on the inside. As I said, you're this antenna. It's part of the indicator that says, if it feels kind of nervous, it's probably psychic energy. Information, thoughts, buzzing around the office. Whereas what comes from spirit is usually completely different. You know that good feeling you get when you get an amazing idea? You're like, wow! It's inspiring. It's like this spirit is enlivening you from the inside. So just because it's spiritual doesn't mean it's peaceful and calm, but how does it feel? Does it feel inspiring and invigorating? Life-giving? Does it feel like it's renewing and bringing you something new? Or does it feel like peace and calm as though someone's putting an emotional blanket around you and just reminding you everything's okay? And so these are the two kind of differences. Mental and psychic energy over here. How does it feel? Kind of nervous. Okay. Over here. It feels soothing, inspiring. I was chatting with someone a while back during counseling, and they said they wouldn't even go to the local coffee shop. They liked it. It was kind of their morning ritual of like going to this coffee shop that was near their house. And they said that after a while, when they would go there, they were picking up on the thoughts and the feelings of folks next to them. Very close to next to them. And they were coming to me for counseling as to was this the beginning of something spiritual, or was it something that they could learn to manage because they liked the coffee shop? They didn't want to stop going there, And what about the bus? There's another 60 people you haven't met yet. We don't want to become so sensitive that we have to be cloistered and protected, set apart from the world. Very few of us, I think, are designed for that. We are creatures that love beings. We love groups, right? Families and friends. And this person was quite disconcerted because they loved living in the city. They loved going to their coffee shop. But what to do when you're picking up on the thoughts and feelings of someone sitting right next to you? And the first question I posed to them was, how does it feel? Quite often, as I said at the intro, that's a question that we weren't trained very often to be aware of. How does it feel? And they said, it feels disconcerting. It feels like it makes me nervous. And I said, that's probably psychic or just information? You're just picking up on their feelings. And I said, how do you feel when you go to the coffee shop in the morning when you arrive? And they said, well, actually, I'm kind of nervous too because I'm anticipating my day. I'm already getting a little upset, getting caught up after the alarm rudely awakens me. And when I get there, I want a good experience, but I'm already feeling tense before I arrive. And I said, so your emotional meter when you arrive is already a little upset. And they said, yes. And so where we're at kind of opens us up, our sensitivity level. It's like being on channel 63 on the radio. If you're on 63, you're going to hear everything that's being broadcast on 63. And so this person was arriving at the coffee shop already a little bit upset. Already a little sensitive, to what might bother them. And so how easily they could pick up. It's just information as energy coming from the thoughts and the emotions of the people sitting next to her. And so with a little bit of dialing it down, we can all do it, little dialing, changing of the channel, we can say, what I'm going to perceive or pick up on from those around me is going to be a little bit different. Does that sound like good news? Oh, how cool. Instead of us being victims of being too sensitive, we can learn to manage it. And so I challenged her. I said, make me a deal. Before you stop going to the coffee shop. She loved it. I said, make a deal with yourself that before you go to the coffee shop, you're going to enjoy the walk before you get there. And you're going to find something that feels good to you that you can focus on for just a few minutes before you arrive. So she tried that for a couple of weeks. A beautiful house, beautiful flower. So that when she arrived, she actually began to report that she experienced more lighthearted things, more positive thoughts. And then I challenged her. I said, you can even dial it down a little bit more specifically to what you want. You get to be the decider if you're in the know of what's going on. Instead of the victim, you get to decide what comes to you. And I said, bring in your spirit guides. And she said, I never knew they could help me with that. Yes, bring in your spirit guides. They can help you filter that. The radio is only picking up the signal. But there's something in the receiving system that's doing the filtering. Do you love it? And so the guides can help us with the filtering of exactly what's coming to us. And so if I don't want to be open or receptive to what he's thinking, what she's thinking, the guides can help you and help me manage that. Turning the dial maybe up to channel 77 of peace and joy. Yeah. You think they can do that? They do it all the time. And so you can select, if you'd like to, this idea of helping the guides be open to where you're at. So that only positive, good things are coming to you. And that's just, I'm still on the psychic and the spiritual, or the psychic and the informational energy. You get to determine what comes to you. Now, most of the time, what comes to us is sometimes by accident. Because we go into the day or we go into the cubicle kind of not pre-deciding. And that's what pre-paving is so wonderful about. Decide how you want to be or perceive a situation before you show up. One example that I experienced as a child in the house where my grandmother lived, she experienced a lot of physical phenomena in her household. And after my grandfather passed, she would begin each day, even though she was in grief, temporarily experiencing grief, she would begin the day in prayer and hopefulness, welcoming a positive day, a positive morning during that day. And so one day she was doing some laundry and she heard a knock on the door. And she went to the door and there was no one there. And she thought, Spirit is doing its thing, right? She comes back to where she was folding the laundry, and on the top of the shirt was this missing house key that my grandfather had lost a long time ago. And it was sitting there in the middle of the laundry. And I said to my grandmother, why would Spirit be involved with putting a key there? And she said, to let me know He's okay. She became the receiver of that experience. Why? She initiated the day. She initiated the experience, setting her tone. Not in fear, but in the premise of, wow, I want to have a beautiful day. I want to have a beautiful experience. I want to welcome the loving guides and angel friends who work with me. See? We can do that whether we're going to the cubicle or to the grocery store or to the coffee shop. And so she did that. And we can all do it in many, many ways. Another example that I'd like to share is regarding... We only have time for 2 more. Regarding how we can specifically decide to be of service. Someone told me that they went to a coffee shop, and as Spirit began to give them information about someone that was sitting next to them that might be having an accident as she drove through the mountains, they felt fear. The person was telling me this, said, I felt fear when I thought of this woman driving through the mountains having a car accident. And I said, well, did you ask your guides what to do about it? And she said, no. In the fear, she kind of shut down. But it could have been an opportunity to be open in just a couple minutes. If it's coming from Spirit, it's going to be empowering. It's going to have a purpose behind it. Because Spirit could be saying all kinds of things, right? There's lots of beings out there, very intelligent and wise. Why are they sharing this one tidbit with you? So again, to recap, if it feels frenetic or nervous, it's probably psychic or informational that you can just say, no, thank you very much. If it's coming from Spirit, it could be informational that's helpful for some purpose. And how we perceive it can decide what we're going to do with it. And so in that situation, she could have said to the person something very delicate like, I'm going to go for a drive this weekend. Are you going to go for a drive? I don't know. It might scare someone to death if you just say, oh, you're going for a drive this weekend. And they say, oh, how'd you know? You don't want to scare people just because you know something, right? But you can very subtly say, I'm going to go for a drive this weekend. What are you doing? And they say, oh, what a coincidence. I'm going to go for a drive too. And then you could say maybe something like, well, my grandfather always said, when you're driving on curves and through mountains, just be extra careful of the winding roads or something. If it's in that person's interest, they're going to pick up on it. If their guides and teachers were right there to help you give them a little positive suggestion, also known as a mini warning, they're going to be open to it. Probably in a positive way rather than scaring them to death. Does that make sense? And so, wow, we have the option as we're receiving from Spirit. How does it feel? Negative and frenetic or mental? Turn it off maybe. If it's coming from Spirit, is it empowering? Is it there for a purpose? Is it there for us to kind of grow up a little bit, to expand and actually become kind of a modern day prophet for a moment? Whether it's something very simple to maybe be of a counseling need to an employee or a relative. Or like in that situation, to just put a good word into the person sitting next to us and say, oh yeah, my grandfather reminded me, I want to drive carefully as I go through the mountains. And if that person is open to it, because their guides are working with them, law of attraction is working with them, and by the magnetism of that positive suggestion, it may be just enough of a heads up for them to say, thanks, I'm going to drive a little bit more carefully. So I've learned that as we kind of go through life, there's lots of ways we can just very subtly feel, is this a little bit frenetic and mental? I can let it go. Or is this empowering and enlivening? And then I can receive it. Receive that welcome idea. Because the second and the last point that I want to make is, just because something is true doesn't mean you have to focus on it. Because a lot of us, as being very sensitive beings, we know that we can pick up on psychic information, and probably every single person in this room could share a real psychic experience when they experienced something that was factually true and maybe caused them to feel disconcerted or upset. And maybe it was something that they couldn't even do something about. Well, just because something is true doesn't mean we have to focus on it. You get to be the decider. But you also, with Spirit's help, can dial that down. And the best example, I love this, about deciding what to not focus on, even though it's true. There's lots of things that are true with the neighbors in your block, right? Just because it exists doesn't mean you want to be open to it. Imagine walking past the newsstand. You're going to have a great day. Ooh, you're launching your day on a positive foot. And as you go by the newsstand, there's all these newspapers from around the world. Negative news, crisis here, crisis there. Do you have to stop your morning, stop your positive launching, to stop and, look at what happened over here. Look at what happened over here. All these magazines and newspapers about negative news. Do you have to stop and read it? 3 of you agree with me. Do you have to stop and read all the negative news? No. Thank you. But it's true. Someone could say, but it's true. And what are you going to do about it? It might, in a small way, inspire you as a healer or a medium or a doer of good deal. Oh, let me send some good thoughts and prayers to this island or this continent. But if your trajectory for the morning, like my grandma was, I'm going to start the day on a positive foot. I'm going to start the day knowing that my positive thoughts are things, my positive intention are things. I'm going to be attracting positive experiences from Spirit and from people. We attract from both. They didn't teach you that in 3rd grade, did they? No, but we're attracting from humans and from Spirit people good things, good energy. And so just because it's true for them, doesn't mean I have to stop and digest it. No. We get to decide. Make a choice. And it doesn't even mean that you don't care. Just because I don't stop when I've launched my new day, or what happened over here in London and the Far East and la la la. I don't have to stop and digest that and interpret that as if I didn't care. I do care. I do care. But if more than 51% of my attention, that's all it takes is 51%. If 51% of my attention goes into, look at what's not working. Oh, look how sad. Look how horrible. What happens to my energy? It's magnetic and it's 51%. It goes down. Now I miss my bus. Now I stub my toe. My briefcase falls open. Everything falls all over the place. Someone's looking at me kind of weird. And I realize they just don't like me. They're just another person that doesn't like me. All of a sudden it snowballs. Why? The 51% is magnetic. Pretty soon it's a horrible morning. Because you can't change what's happening in Africa and the UK and the islands here, the islands there. You got it going from what was true from other people's experience. You didn't have to go there. Think of it flipped the other way. Launching my day. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. The birds are singing my song. I love it. Yes. I love that building. I think the bus is going to be on time. What a beautiful thing. I'm not going to be delayed by stopping to look at all these periodicals and newspapers. Oh, hello, negative headlines. Send you love. send love to this corner of the world, send love to that corner of the world. A lot of cultures got this right when they sent love every morning to the four corners of the earth. They were saying, I care, but from a distance. And we can do the same thing before we get to the corner. Love you, love you, love you. And my 51% is all in the love. And so how does it feel launching the day? I get to choose in that 51%. I get to choose to be magnetically open to the negativity, the frenetic, or in any moment, including sitting there after even getting caught up temporarily in fear. Oh, I can change the dial on the inside. I can change my magnetic frequency to back to love. And so if someone is going to have a bad hair day, a bad trip over here, bad trip over there, God and the angels can help them. And my negativity, my worrying, I'm going to worry for them because I love them so much. I'm going to worry over them. No, that's not going to help them. I say that respectfully. Sending them worry isn't going to help. No matter how terrible their hardship. I hope that makes sense magnetically. Because even though I might care and have love initially, which caused me to be sensitive, if I'm going to be sending them worry energy, that's not going to help. But from a place of love, 51%, 59%, I'm 60, I'm just feeling so much love. I send you love, I send you love, I send you love. The bus is on time, the bus driver loves me. Oh, everything's wonderful. The sun is still shining. The stock market loves me. Everybody loves me. You get to say it your way. It's true. And then guess what? Someone says, oh, look, you dropped a dollar bill. Thank you very much. I'll take that. I was swimming out here at the beach one day and just appreciating, my mind kind of goes into the meditative mode. There's a shell here, shell there. And in the Gulf is floating this beautiful dollar bill. Do you love it? How do you spell free money? And it's like, guess what? There's lots of places to get a dollar bill. But when one is floating to you, come on, it's better than a rabbit's foot because no one will take a rabbit's foot in exchange for a Coke. That's a joke. And so guess what? This dollar bill that I found last August is still taped to my mirror at home because it's my lucky dollar bill. It's my reminder that I get to see things my way. Doesn't that make sense? I get to see things my way. My 51% can become 89%, can become 99%. So much so that just like the gurus and the sages and the saints that we put up on the highest of pedestals, they maintain their vibration no matter what. They said, we know there's negativity in the world, but that's not the point. From a caring, compassionate place, I get to decide how to see it. We get to decide to be the positive contributors back. And so I invite you at the beginning of this brand new week, be as empowered as ever. Be sensitive, that's fine. But be decisive about it. Be volitional. Say, you know what? I'm a co-creator with Spirit, not with frenetic energy. I'm a co-creative creator with Spirit. And I'll see it my way because I get to decide to be this lover of humanity. Thank you, friends. God bless.